So now we're going to learn about how to do the second tag, which is the landscape tag. So here's an example. This is Mount Manaia in Whangarei, which is an area that I have close association with. It's where my family went on holiday for many, many years. My mum and then grandparents and great-grandparents all way back there. So that's Whangarei Heads. I'm going to do a little demonstration over here on this tag, which has already been, has a layer of gesso and a layer of dark yellow ochre paint, and then it had a layer of lighter yellow paint. So it's already got 3 coats of paint on it, but it looks kind of ugly, let's face it. So what I'm going to do is show you how to make it look really nice. So the first step is to do the special technique which I call fluffy fluffy. I want you to repeat after me, fluffy fluffy.
Fluffy fluffy.
Excellent. And that is for, guess what? The cloud area or the sky area, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make up a nice sky colour. Can anyone remember how I make black with the colours you've been given?
Brown and blue.
Brown and blue. So I'm actually going to use a little bit of brown in there just to soften off that blue. If you use the pure blue just by itself, it will look a little bit like Teletubby Land and will look weird, okay? So I'm going to start by fluffy fluffy. I haven't got very much paint on my brush, and I'm doing this fluffy fluffy sort of motion, okay? And I'm just fluffing that paint on, and obviously it's a really good idea if you've got a picture of a landscape in front of you. I'm actually just going to base mine on my other old painting. And say your photograph of your landscape has got the land you want, but the sky's boring, like there's nothing happening in the sky, it's just like a blue sky, then you can find some really cool cloud pictures. I've got a real fascination for clouds. If any of you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I just photograph clouds all the time. But you have to put up with boring photos of me and my dog as well and stuff like that. So fluffy fluffy, you can use, see I'm using quite a soft brush. In fact, you can use quite a large brush. You can even use those really massive brushes to do this step. Okay, so fluff, 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 fluff. And you can kind of keep rubbing it until it almost feels like it's drying. Now there's a little sense of the golden yellow kind of coming in from behind, but that's quite nice. That's okay. If you want to, you can give your cloud shapes a little bit of definition. So just on the tops, because quite often clouds are defined at the top and then they just fade into nothing. Oh, I just love things that fade into nothing. I don't know what it is, but it's just really nice. Yeah, things that fade into nothing. Transparent things, you know. So a little bit kind of defined at the top with a smaller brush, and then maybe get that bigger brush and blend it, fluff it in like that. It does take, it is quite hard because the paint dries super fast. So one thing you can do is actually add this thing called retarder to the paint, and it makes the paint dry slower, and we've got a bottle of that up there and it's got retarder written on it. Okay, so that's my fluffy fluffy sky. Obviously I can kind of stipple on a few little smaller clouds in the background. Clouds normally are smaller when they're further away. Okay, they look smaller when they're further away, and they look bigger when they're closer. So you can make bigger ones near the horizon. Now you can see I've deliberately brought that sky quite far down because I want to make the land look like it's on top of the sky. Probably I'd put a second coat on there just to make it a little bit fluffier and a little bit more subtle. You can see here I've got some other colours coming through where it's almost slightly greenish. So I could kind of put some other tones in there. It looks nice if the sky is made from lots of different colours. Some of you will choose sunset skies, that's fine. Just try not to actually paint the sun in the sunset. Just treat it like a very bright area, like white, you know. That will look better. If you try and draw a little round sun, it will look weird. Okay, the second part is called blobby blobby. Repeat after me. Blobby, blobby. Okay, so the blobby, blobby bit is for the most solid part, which is the land and the trees or any vegetation, that kind of thing. So I'm mixing up a darker colour. A little bit hard to see the colour, so I'm going to stand up. And what I want to do here is kind of put the paint on a little bit thicker. Okay, and I'm going to make it a little bit more rough than this one, just to really give you that idea of blobby blobby. So I want it to look like the land is on top of the sky. Okay, so it needs to be a different tone. It needs to be darker, usually darker. Occasionally the sky is really dark and moody and the land is lit up by another ray of light somewhere. Okay, you can literally put the paint on quite thick. Does anyone know the official word for thick paint? It starts with I. Anyone heard of impasto?
Isn't that what our paints are called?
It sounds like pasta, but it's not. It's impasto, and that's when you put your paint on a bit thicker. Now look at how that little cloud is like peeking over the edge of the land. I'm really happy with that. Okay, so you want a really crisp line between the land and the sky. Okay, now I'm going to do the last part of the landscape, or of the techniques, to show you, and this one is called choppy choppy. Yeah, choppy choppy. Okay, I'm going to do choppy choppy now. So I'm going to mix up some watercolour, a nice light aqua kind of colour for the water. Probably should be similar to the sky. And I'm actually going to have two colours. I'm going to have a dark one as well. I have to mix up quite a bit to get this technique to work. Because what I'm going to do is use the scraper. And one of the things you really want to be able to achieve with a landscape is, and if you have water involved, is a straight horizontal line for the water. Now some of you probably saw this lesson last year because I taught you something very similar in Year 10. Do you remember that, Anushka? Yeah. Okay, so this is choppy choppy. Okay, looks like water, eh? Straight away, just looks like water. I'm going to put some darker bits on too. Choppy choppy. I think the main message I'm trying to get across is just use different brush strokes for the different things that you're trying to achieve. Okay, so I probably want that to dry and then just go over it again and obviously knock back that bright yellow. It's just too intense. And then my next step is the really creative step where I mix the landscape with the pattern, and you can see I haven't finished doing that there, but that's kind of the bit where you can be a bit more creative and a bit more playful. Another way of doing the landscape, a totally different way of doing the landscape, which might suit a lot of you since you're quite watercolour-y type people, because I've noticed that from your beautiful grounds, is instead to put really thin washes of paint on. And this watery technique is really, really nice to use. It takes a bit longer though because you've got to wait for it to dry to then, build up the layers. But this is quite a nice method if you want to sort of just have a more watercolour sort of effect on your landscape. You can see, and you know already from doing it in your backgrounds, that you can get really nice subtle effects when you put the paint on watery. And a lot of the early New Zealand landscapes were painted using this method. So if you googled New Zealand landscape watercolour, you'd probably find some really beautiful landscapes that you could get some inspiration from. I did want to show you Stanley Palmer, this person here. So this artist, Stanley Palmer, would be a really good one for you to print off a few examples, because all of his paintings are of New Zealand, and he uses really beautiful colours. Okay, so a nice straight horizon line, beautiful soft colours in the sky, not your sort of regular colours, but you know, ochre in the sky, purpley brown in the water, and those sorts of things. So using different colours will definitely give you quite a good effect there. Okay.